Hello again, everybody. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the working title mod again, but this time we're looking at the now 0.5.0 version, just released yesterday, I believe. And so for this flight demo, we're actually going to be starting in the simbrief website. So if you don't have an account already, it's free, fairly simple to set up. And so what I've gone ahead and done is set up a quick flight from LaGuardia up to Mitchell International. I'm using the aircraft profile that working title have sort of set up as a template, so I'll link that in the description. I pretty much only changed the registration number to the one that I usually use. And so one thing to note is that you'll want to leave your departures and arrivals off of this route, just because it tends to mess things up in-game with the flight planner. And the other thing is you want to either write down this pilot ID number or just have it available, because we'll need this in-game in a minute. So then once you have this all set up, you'll want to go up here and hit Generate OFP. And so once you hit the Generate OFP button, if you go up to My Flights and go down here, you'll see, you should see the flight that you just created. And so the mod will use the most recent flight that you've created. In our case, I've only created one flight so far, so this should be the flight that shows up in game. So now we can go ahead and jump into the cockpit. Okay, so here we are in the cockpit of the CJ4 at LaGuardia, and we'll go ahead and start this up like normal. So we'll go battery on.
Pause system test. Okay.
And set our avionics to dispatch, since our engines are off. And zoom in down here. Go pause init, set up our INS. And now, what we can do is, instead of hitting next and plotting our flight plan in here, what we can do is go to Index, Next, Mod Set, and in here we can see that we have our simbrief pilot ID, and on the first time you do this, you'll have to type in your 6-digit pilot ID from simbrief, but it will remember this number, so you don't have to do it again, even after you restart the game. And then since we're here, you can see the new feature as well. You can adjust the cabin lights behind you, so you can set it off, dim, or full on. Okay, so then we go back, and to load the flight plan into the FMS, you'll go to this route menu, and down here you'll see your pilot ID number. It should match the number you have, and then you'll just hit this flight plan recall. It'll load it up, and if you have any VORs, it'll ask you if there's a duplicate VOR or NDB or something like that. It'll ask you to specify which one, so just hit that. And there we go. It's now loaded our LaGuardia to Mitchell International. If we go to legs, you can see these are all the waypoints on the jetway. And to set up our departure, taking off runway 13 with the Goldman departure. And then arrivals, taking the GoPack arrival. We're taking the Leiden transition. Leiden is from the south, Ogeka's from the west. So we'll take Leiden, and we'll be expecting the ILS for one left. So we'll go ahead and hit execute. And there it is. It's loaded our entire flight plan into the plane. So now we can continue on with our startups. We'll turn the engine 2 on. And while engine 2 is starting, we'll move up to performance. I believe we have 3 passengers on board and 100 pounds of cargo. and it's already has the 41,000 feet cruising altitude that we specified in our simbrief flight plan. And I'll wait until the engines are started until we continue with our startup. Okay, so both engines are started up, so we can switch our avionics to on. And we'll go ahead and turn our climate control on. You'll hear the fans start up. And set our air source to normal. And I'll go ahead and turn my pilot side fan down, and you can also turn the co-pilot's fan down. So that's pretty cool. And with the engines running, we'll turn the seatbelt sign on.
May I have your attention, please? The captain has turned on the seatbelt sign. Please fasten your seatbelt and shoulder harness at this time. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to performance, takeoff. Wind is going to be but looks like it's changed now to 290 at 1 knot. At 1 knot. And temperature 15. Altimeter. Let's see. The elevation of LaGuardia is about 20 feet. So altimeter should be about 2993. And go next. Doesn't look like we need anti-ice, and 15 degrees of flaps. And we got a rotate of 102, so we'll hit send. And now we can see our PFDs updated with our calculated takeoff numbers. So I think that's all we need from the FMS for now. And now we can just start setting up our PFDs and MFDs. So go PFD menu, config, and I'll take the AOA display out of auto and just set it to on. And this is no longer bugged to where when you turn it on you can't use PFD menu or reference menu anymore. So that got fixed, which is pretty nice. For MFD, I'll set this to arc for now, and I'll leave it in this black and blue display. I'll set the PFD to weather. And for the upper menu, I will switch it from systems to FMS text. Okay, got that done. Now we can set up the autopilot. So I'll arm the flight director and turn the LNAV1 on. And for climb, I'll just set up a V speed for now. Look at the departure here. First restriction is you have to cross Kiwi at or above 2,500 feet at no more than 220 knots. Okay, so our autopilot's set up. Get our lights on here. And it's a pretty short taxi. The runway is just like right here. So I'll turn the pitot heat on now. Get my elevator trim set up. And another new feature. If we go to passenger briefing, we now have audio. What am I trying to say? We now have voiced passenger briefings. So since this is a pretty short taxi, I'll just use the takeoff short briefing. The long one is no joke, it's actually pretty long, so just use this briefing.
May I have your attention, please?
And we'll start taxiing.
We will be taking off shortly. Please turn off all portable electronic devices, stow tables, secure luggage, and loose articles. Ensure your seat is in the upright and outboard position. Extend your headrest and fasten your lap belt and shoulder harness. Thank you.
Okay, so here we are at runway 13. Just make sure everything's set up. And we'll take the taxi light off, switch the landing light on, turn the strobes on. And autopilot's all set up. And what I'm actually going to do is increase this to 4,500, just to make it simpler. So, looks like final is clear. Okay, so brakes are set. Just make sure the engines look good. Okay, release the brakes, full power. Airspeed's alive. There's rotate. Bring the gear up, passing through V transition. Okay, get the flaps up. Okay, now we're going to turn right to 179 degrees. We're going to want to cross this intersection up here at or above 2,500 feet. And we're going to have to throttle back now just to stay below 220 knots. Okay, now we're heading right over to Goldman. And in real life we'd fly 335 degrees and ATC would give us vectors to our flight plan, but since we're not using ATC, we're just gonna go from Goldman and then pretty much straight into our flight plan. And so that's pretty much it for our departure. I'll be back in a few minutes once we've entered cruise. Okay, so here we are up at cruising altitude. So the first thing I'll go over is the memory buttons. And these only store the MFD configuration. But to do that, we'll store this display first. So we'll click and hold this memory 1 button, and you'll hear a click after about like 3 or 4 seconds. And once you hear the click, you can let go of the button, so press it. There's the click, so I'll release it. And for our memory 2, let's put this into plan. And instead of the black and blue map, we'll have the terrain map. So go to memory 2, press and hold. There's the click, so we'll let go. So now, what we can do is go memory 1. Now we've got arc mode with the black and blue map. And if we get memory 2, we now have the plan view with the terrain view. And so that is a really nice way to quickly switch between displays instead of going to like lower menu and scrolling. And then say you wanted it in weather. So really nice feature and a lot of fun to play around with too. If we go to passenger briefing, I just remembered I should have the yaw damper on. You can see if we ever pick up turbulence, we can play this audible briefing message. You just sort of select it the same way you do the other ones. You got the seatbelt message, passenger safety message, which is also down here. And then you can also play a message for oxygen mask deployment. Let's see, other things. Our system overlay. Before the fuel flow was bugged, but now it is displaying the correct fuel flow. Just changing the engines a bit so you can see it's working. So that's a nice feature we have back now. Let's see, another feature is this elapsed time. So it'll start a timer in this bottom left-hand corner of the PFD. So I'll go ahead and hit elapsed time. Now you can see we started, a timer here. So this is really useful if you're doing things like back course approaches, or you need to do like a holding pattern with procedure turns. And then just to stop it, you'll hit it again, and that pauses it. Hit it again, it goes away, and then hit it again to start it. So pretty nice feature there. Okay, and so that's all I really wanted to show for now. There's a few more features I'll highlight once we get close to our approach. And one more thing I wanted to point out is that Asobo have addressed the dolphin dance issue with the CJ4. And I say addressed, not fixed, because it is still there, but it's not so much a dolphin dance anymore, it's more of like a dolphin wobble. So the plane is a lot better to fly now. Now that you don't have to deal with the plane just flopping all over the place when you're trying to climb or come in for a ILS. So yeah, I'll pick this back up once we are nearing our approach. Okay, so here we are coming into land. And real quick, we'll just play our passenger briefing for landing.
May I have your attention, please? We will be landing shortly. Please turn off all portable electronic devices, stow tables, secure luggage, and loose articles. Return your seat to the upright and outboard position. Extend your headrest and fasten your lap belt and shoulder harness. After landing, please remain in your seat with your lap belt and shoulder harness securely fastened until the aircraft has come to a complete stop in the parking area. Thank you.
Okay, and I just put in our approach information there. So I'll switch our PFD over to our UR nav radio page thing. So if we go index, next we can hit arrival data. We can see our frequency for our ILS, so 110.3. And when we select it in the departure arrival, it'll automatically tune it to nav1, which is very helpful. Okay, we have a left crosswind, so we'll just correct it a bit here. Okay, go idle. Floated pretty long there, but We're taxiing off at the end of the runway, so it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay, we got the speed brakes out. Bring the flaps up now. That building out there is the FBO at this airfield. Okay, put the parking brake on. So we'll shut this down, we'll go avionics off. Turn the climate control air source off, pitot heat off, get all the lights off, and we can go engine 1 and engine 2, generators, and then the battery. Alright, so that's all I have for the demo flight today. I tried to cover as many new features of the working title mod as I could. So far I am loving the simbrief feature. It makes flight planning so much easier, especially if you try to use the flight planner that Microsoft Flight Simulator has, like the main menu sort of thing that just takes forever. So I really like that, and glad it's working. There's a whole bunch of other features I didn't cover, a lot of modifications, and just smaller things. So I'll leave a link in the description of the changelog, which also has a link to the mod itself. And I'll also leave a link to the aircraft profile template that working title is put up for simbrief. So that's all I have for today, and hopefully that helped people get used to this new version of working title mod. And I'll see everybody next time.